All right, so we're so glad to have Marissa Fagarquist with us today, and uh, and go ahead. I don't know what your position is, so you can tell me exactly what your position is, if you would.
Sure. My title is Center Director. So I oversee the center in Sturbridge. We have three locations, and so my job is to kind of manage the one right here in Sturbridge.
Excellent. So, and I'm typing notes too, and I apologize for that. But all right, and so if you could just explain the ministry and what you do, real quickly, and you know what's the purpose of a of like a crisis pregnancy.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. So Your Options Medical is a small chain of nonprofit pregnancy centers throughout Massachusetts. We currently have three locations, so Fall River, Revere, and Sturbridge. And we actually just announced this morning, about an hour ago, that we are going to be opening a fourth location in Brookline. So that's really exciting. Yes, so that's great. We'll be able to kind of get our reach even further into Boston, which is excellent. So basically what we do, we provide free pregnancy testing, ultrasounds, and options counseling to our patients. And we provide this free of charge. So the goal is we want to reach out to women and couples who are facing unexpected pregnancies, who might be considering abortion, and oftentimes they feel that's their only option. So our hope is that they'll come to us, they'll get the vital medical services that they need, they'll hear the truthful information that they need in order to make a decision, and our hope is that they'll make life-affirming decisions. So that's kind of in a nutshell what we do.
Yeah, and I appreciate that ministry very, very much. I think it's super important because when an individual or a couple is faced with this kind of a difficult situation or decision, it's good to have somebody affirming that life is valuable, and someone that can say, yeah, you should do everything in your power to preserve the life of this child, because there's so many voices that are very loud out there that are saying you don't need to, and that this baby's not that important. And speak to that. How do you find a lot of hostility and a lot of conflict in this area?
It depends. So with our patients, no. Our patients generally come in, they're scared, right? They just found out they're pregnant. They either didn't want to be, they just didn't see it coming, they were preventing or trying to. So they usually come in, and honestly, percentage of the time, they are just scared, and they will tell you, or they'll tell us that they really just feel like they have no other option. They have to have an abortion. We've even had some that come in that will say, well, I know I don't really believe in abortion. I didn't think I'd ever have one, but I have no choice. And then they give, the list of reasons. And I can sympathize with them, because most of them do have a lot going on, and it's scary. And yeah, unfortunately, society says, oh, it's not a big deal. It's easy. It's a quick thing. It makes all your problems go away. And that's just not the case. Unfortunately, people that I talk to that seem to fight the hardest for it, to expand the reach and access to abortion, haven't really sat with somebody who's had one and are struggling with that. So again, from our patients, no, they usually just feel pressure. And on the outside, more so, yes, unfortunately.
Yeah. So let's speak to the practical aspects of this right into the home, right? Where do most families miss the mark in successfully communicating and transferring a pro-life worldview to their children? For instance, you mentioned, someone said, I never really believed in it, never thought I'd have it, but I look like I'm at that point. What do you think is the most effective way for a parent to affirm and communicate a pro-life worldview so that even when someone might be at their lowest, it would still ring true in them? I know it might be a tough question.
No, that's okay. So I see it kind of as a two-part question. So I'll answer as I see fit, and you can correct me if need be. So where we may kind of miss the mark, I think honestly just by not talking about it. And I don't mean you have to sit down with your 3-year-old and say, there's this thing called abortion. Here's what happens, and go through all the gory details, right? That's not what I'm saying at all. But I think the fact that we don't ever bring it up And that can be for a multitude of reasons. Now, having a daughter of my own and kind of thinking that through and how we're going to approach it as a family, I can understand it and sympathize for those parents who want so badly to instill that pro-life worldview in their children, but you're not sure how, because abortions become very political. It's a very hostile discussion. It's not really something you typically bring up at, Christmas dinner or Thanksgiving dinner, because everybody just has opposing views and unfortunately don't often find common ground. So I think that's where we kind of miss the mark, is that we kind of just avoid the conversation completely. And then I think, just practically speaking, basically just the opposite. How do we instill a pro-life worldview in our children is by talking about it. And again, I don't mean, bringing your young child in and explaining exactly what abortion is, maybe when it's an inappropriate age, but just by instilling in them that unborn children are valuable, that when they see a woman that's pregnant, whether maybe mommy's pregnant or auntie's pregnant, just instilling in them that yes, mommy or auntie, whoever is carrying a baby. Isn't that exciting? There's this new life that's growing, and, sharing different things, even about fetal development. I did that with my niece and my nephews. They were thrilled. Like every week I would send them little updates of, this is what baby's doing now. And, oh, now she can kind of see light and she can hear auntie's voice. And if you talk to auntie's belly, she'll hear your voice. She doesn't know what you're saying, but she can hear you, so just, I think really just focusing on that, on talking about it and instilling that again, that is a life, and that life is valuable. Even simple things that, again, if they know mommy's pregnant, maybe daddy can kind of encourage the kids, hey, let's do this for mommy because she has to take care of the baby. Because, if mommy's, I don't know, doing too much and she gets really tired, she could get sick. That could affect the baby. So let's let mommy take a nap. We'll go, do the dishes, or we'll go vacuum, just doing simple things like that. I think really, again, just instilling that life is worthy of protection, and it is just that, it's a life. And I think if we do that, then someday when either we bring up that word abortion or they hear it and they ask about it, then when they find out what it is, we don't have to tell them it's wrong, right? They'll hear about it and go, oh, and instantly know, well, that's wrong because that's a life. I know that was kind of how it was for me. When I first heard about abortion, my mom didn't have to tell me it was wrong. I just went, wait, that's a thing? That's wrong, So I think if we can just do those simple things of just talking about life in the womb and really instilling that it's valuable, I think that will help.
Yeah, excellent. That's great advice. I mean, even thinking back to my oldest daughter is now 13. Thinking back, I can't remember exactly when but it's been a few years. We kind of just introduced, we didn't go into details, obviously, but a few years ago, we kind of addressed the issue. Well, this is a thing. And that was her response. What? How can people do that? Because of exactly that, right? And that's probably a very natural response for most. But to make it intentional, I think is huge. And that's really good advice. That's really good advice. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Let's maybe just go a little bit more into that, that even with young children, right? What are some other ways, apart from just valuing the life of the child, of babies, even in the womb? Well, let's go back even one more step behind that. So, like, you have a crisis pregnancy center, and I know our family, we've been involved in you do the baby bottle drives, right? And we collect change, and that's something that we've done as a family together. We always get our kids together and say, oh, we're going to fill up the baby bottle and we're going to support this ministry because they support life. I think it's a great opportunity, and every family that watches this should figure out a way to do something like that. Mm-hmm. I think support your options through that way, because it's a great way to put some really practical, just a really practical way to say, hey, we're going to support this organization because of what they do and how they protect and support and value and honor life. Mm-hmm. What are some ways, maybe even beyond that a family could get involved in, say, like a ministry like your own together to reinforce that? To say, no, not just to have that mindset that, yes, we value the life, but to actually put that faith to work.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, definitely, like you said, the baby bottles are great. Very easy, practical way for a family to do it together. One thing that I've done in my children's church at my former church when I was a teacher, I encourage the kids to take a bottle home and ask their parents if they could look around the house. So like, check under the couch cushion, look in the car, see if you find change to put in that baby bottle. And they thought it was great because every week they'd come in, guess where I found change? It was in the dryer. They love it. But also, instilling in them, because I would explain, what we do in very simple terms of just, we help mommies and, we support families that maybe they don't have family to help them. And, a new baby, it can be a lot of work and mommies and daddies need help. So we come alongside. But anyway, so I think, the baby bottles are a great idea. We had a family that at Christmas time, they decided that they were going to go out and fill a diaper bag. So they went to a few different stores. They bought a diaper bag and they just filled it with different items, that a baby would need. And then they donated it to the center to give to a mom. And so that way the kids could, pick out little toys and things. And the parents basically, just told them, this is for a mom who's in need. Maybe she doesn't have a lot of money or, she's having a hard time right now and she needs some help. So we're going to fill up this bag to give to her for her baby. So I think that's something simple. Maybe even doing something like getting some diapers and wipes. And it doesn't have to be a lot, honestly, even just getting like one small pack of diapers and bringing that in and just saying, being intentional, again, about saying, this is why we're doing this, so the child understands. Can I tell a brief story? I'll keep it short. All right. So we actually had last year in our Revere Center, a young man, about 8 years old, Frankie. Cutest little thing. He came into the center, introduced himself as Frankie, and he said, I have some diapers and wipes for your patients, for the moms. And so he had decided a couple of years ago that so his birthday was right after Christmas. And he decided because he gets so much at Christmas, he doesn't want anything for his birthday. So he just told his parents, I want to get things for other people. So I think one year he had given pizza to like his local fire department, and one year it was the police department. So for that year, he decided he wanted to get diapers and wipes for our center. He had heard about it at church, I guess, and just kind of took that into his own hands. So something even just as simple as that. Again, even if it's one pack of diapers or one pack of wipes, maybe even I've offered, some people will stop by our center and they'll just pray. So maybe even just calling up your local center and asking, hey, can my family and I just come down and pray for the staff? And again, you can keep it very simple but again, being very intentional too with your kids and explaining why you're doing it. So it's not just saying we value this, but it's showing them we value it and we're going to put our words where our mouth is, basically.
Yeah, excellent. That's great. That's really great. Well, maybe address, how about a teenager? Because they're older now, and now maybe they have an understanding. What might be something that a teenager could do apart, we've kind of addressed the child and this, what might an older child be able to do in this regards? How could mom and dad intentionally encourage them to practice this pro-life worldview? What might be an opportunity?
So we worked with the youth group last year and they did a couple different things. Two male students actually, I want to say they were about 15, 16, had heard a little about the pro-life movement in church, and they approached me and asked, hey, what can we do? What's something that we could do practically speaking? So we had some simple needs around our office. We said, hey, we're going to be wanting to paint. If you're ever willing to come out and paint some walls, that would be great. Or we have a mobile unit, so a large RV that's fully equipped to do pregnancy testing and ultrasound. And we said, hey, we're going to need that washed. Would you guys, mind coming out to wash our vehicle? And they were so excited about that. And then there are some things even like outside the center I was encouraging them with. So being involved with things like 40 Days for Life, which is, campaign that goes to the local abortion center and you pray outside that center. It's very peaceful. And it's just a great way to encourage them. And again, it's something that anybody of any age could do. So yeah, your 13, your 14-year-old can go out with you and just sit and quietly pray, and yet it has a huge impact. I also encourage them to check out Students for Life. If folks aren't familiar with that, so basically it's an initiative on high school and college campuses to try to get, word out about the truth about abortion and spreading the pro-life message. And so they were excited to try to start some clubs at their school.
That's great. Those are really good suggestions. And thanks for sharing that. Students for Life as well. I would encourage every family to check that out, especially for your teenager and college-age students. Wow, it's good, really good practical information that you're sharing. I appreciate this so much. Let me ask this question. What do you wish you could tell every church in America about this issue of a pro-life worldview?
So when you sent me that, I'm not going to lie, I wrestled with that a little bit because I said, man, one thing, just one.
Well, it doesn't have to be one thing, but what would you tell them?
Well, honestly, I thought about it, and then I wrestled with the thought a little bit, and then I prayed about it, and God kind of put it in my mind of, we need you. We meaning the pro-life movement, we need you. We need the church as a whole, and some churches are very good about, standing up, protecting life, defending life, talking about this, offering healing for those who have had an abortion, because that's another key piece. But also our patients, these women, they need you. I think oftentimes we as the church, we focus on the child, which of course we need to give them a voice, right? They're voiceless. They cannot speak for themselves. We need to speak up for them. But we also need to support mom, because she's the only one who can make that decision to abort or not. She's the only one legally who can make that decision, aside from a miraculous act of God. And that's one thing we found is that, when we're serving women, when we just love them like Jesus, man, that does a lot. Sometimes we get opportunity, we get to share the gospel, and that's amazing. Unfortunately, it doesn't always happen. But my philosophy is, if we love them like Jesus, we showed them Christ, we were his hands and feet, that's what matters. And they'll come back, years later, their child's 3 and 4, and they still come back and say, I don't know why, I still want to come back, but I do. And it's because they know this is a place where they're loved, where they're safe. And so, I mean, the church as a whole, but I also mean church, like just us as individuals. Don't wait for your church to start something if you're not necessarily super proactive in the pro-life movement. Don't sit back and just go, well, church isn't doing anything, that's a shame. Be the one that says, I'm going to start something. And even if it's not through your entire church, but just be that person. If you know a young mom who's struggling or is expecting, reach out to her, be that support. Don't wait for them to come to you, but be very intentional again about reaching out. So I think that would be, if I could kind of, put it in a short sentence, just we need you and they need you.
Amen. I like that. And I think even that brings with it a practical dynamic as well, so that you don't, and parents probably have to be careful about this too, I'm sure, but when you hear about someone who may have had an abortion, your response shouldn't be anger towards them necessarily, although what they did was wrong. But as you're saying, we need to demonstrate the love of Christ. Even if they're considering it, right? Demonstrate the love of Christ. That's excellent. That is excellent. Wow, I'm glad you prayed about that, because that was good. That was very, very good. Amen. Anything else that you would like to share? It doesn't have to be about any of my questions, right? Is there anything else that you can think of?
So I'm so sorry. My mic went out for a second. My speakers just shut off for a minute. So can you repeat that for me?
Oh, sure. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, no problem. Is there anything else that you might like to share that you think people should hear about this issue, just from your heart or anything?
Well, could I just share maybe a patient story that might encourage people?
Yeah.
Is that all right? Okay. So, well, we've had lots of good ones, lots of exciting stories, but one in particular that really kind of stayed with me. So last year, about Christmas time, I believe it was just about a week before Christmas, we got a call, just a young girl, scared, found out she was pregnant, took the test, and very, nervous and not sure what she's going to do. She came in, got a pregnancy test, and it was positive. So, we get her ready for ultrasound, and she was just had, every reason in the book. I can't do this. I'm young. I'm not even graduated from high school yet. Her boyfriend was with her, and he's like, we just were not ready to be parents. This isn't in our plan. You know, he wanted to go to school, and she had aspirations to go to school and get this career going. She thought my parents are going to kick me out. You know, I can't do this. And, you know, we were going to go get the abortion pill and all this. But her brother, actually, she talked to her brother, and he had said, I'm going to bring you someplace. And so brought her to us. And so he had said, you know, he'd respect her and wait in the car, but, you know, she could share freely with him. And in talking, she shared about, yeah, I really didn't want an abortion, but again, just scared, right? And so through the course of conversation, she shared, yeah, my brother goes to church and he's pro-life. And so, you know, he doesn't want me to have an abortion, but he said, you know, I want you to at least just go to this place and get the information to figure out exactly what's going on, make sure you really are pregnant and all of this. And sure enough, she was pregnant. The ultrasound showed good, strong heartbeat, but actually twins. She had 2 babies she was pregnant with, and that kind of put a pause. The father of the baby still didn't want her to have them. You know, again, I can't blame him. He's young and he's scared, and he thinks that this is a simple solution, right? And so a few weeks later, she came back for a follow-up ultrasound. She was just very early, so we recommended a repeat to make sure everything was going okay. And she said, you know, I changed my mind. I actually told my parents, and they did not kick me out. They're actually renovating part of their house to help me with the babies. My mom and I already have a plan. Once I have them, she's going to let me kind of take a maternity leave of sorts. And then at a certain time, you know, I need to make sure I get a job, and at least part-time, so I can help, you know, I'll pay for the babies and she'll watch them for me and all this. And I wasn't the one who personally met with her, but it just sticks with me because she looked at the ultrasound technician and she was like, can I hug you? Because you're the first person that saw my babies with me, and you were the first one to speak for them. Oh, I'm going to cry. So sorry. But so that moment just really stuck with me, that we have the honor of being able to show them a view that normally only God has, right? Only God can typically see inside and see that baby. But because we have the tools and the abilities to be able to show her that, that's what caused her to choose life. And thankfully, her twins, healthy boy and girl, absolutely beautiful babies. And Dad did end up coming around after, you know, a little time to process. He said, you know what, my dad wasn't part of my life. I can't do that to my kids. So, you know, they're, to my knowledge, they're not in a relationship, but they're working together to, you know, raise their kids and in a civil way, you know, and that really sticks with me. And I think I keep going back to that brother, right? He wasn't a volunteer at a pregnancy center. He wasn't, you know, doing all these things that we see as kind of the big things, but he simply just stood up for his sister, stood up for his niece and nephew, and spoke truth to her. You know, let's just go do this. One very practical thing, he provided a ride and he talked to her. And according to her account, he didn't have to say anything profound, you know, and he didn't have to tell her, you can't do that, that's wrong. You know, he didn't condemn her. He just gave her truth instead, gave her an option other than abortion. So yeah, so I just wanted to share that one because it really, really stuck with me.
That's a great story. And I appreciate what you guys are doing. I mean, right there, that's 2 lives, right, that have been spared because of what you offer and what you do. And the church needs to be behind what you're doing. Families need to be behind you. So just like you said, the church needs to be with you on this. Every front, right? Speaking up, providing resources, care, compassion. Excellent. Excellent.
Yeah, thank you.
I love it. It's great stuff. I appreciate your time, and I appreciate you giving this interview to me.
Oh, thank you. My pleasure.